Australia is one of the driest inhabited continents on Earth. Most of the land receives less than 500 millimeters of rain per year. Some regions far less than that. And unlike drought as an exception, in Australia, dry is the default. It is the baseline condition that everything else is designed around. When you live off-grid here, you cannot rely on a municipal water supply. You cannot always drill a well. Groundwater in much of the continent is either too deep, too saline, or simply not there. And you cannot predict when the next significant rain will come. It might be next week. It might be 4 months from now. So you store, not as a precaution, as a fundamental design principle. To understand why Australian off-grid homes are built the way they are, you need to understand the rainfall pattern first. Unlike Europe or North America where rain arrives fairly consistently throughout the year, Australia's rainfall is concentrated and unpredictable. In the tropical north there is a defined wet season and a long punishing dry season. In the southeast, most rain falls in winter. In the interior, some areas record less than 200 millimeters annually, and even that can arrive all at once in a single storm event, then nothing for months. This creates a fundamental engineering problem. You cannot size a water system around average rainfall because the average is misleading. What matters is the longest likely gap between rain events. That gap might be 60 days. In a drought year it might be 6 months. Your storage has to cover the worst case, not the average case. That is a completely different design philosophy from what most of the world uses. The roof is the starting point of the entire system and it is more capable than most people realize. Every square meter of roof area can collect roughly 1 liter of water per millimeter of rainfall. A modest 150 square meter roof during a 20 millimeter rainfall event collects around 3,000 liters of water. That sounds significant until you consider that a family of 4 in a warm Australian climate can go through that in less than 2 weeks just through normal daily use, cooking, bathing, laundry, and a small garden. The collection process starts at the roof surface itself. Metal roofing is preferred over tile because it is smoother, easier to clean, and transfers water faster. Gutters run along the perimeter and feed into a downpipe. Before water enters the tank, it passes through a first flush diverter, a simple but important device that automatically discards the first flow off the roof, which carries dust, bird droppings, and debris, and only allows the cleaner water that follows to enter storage. Some systems also include a leaf filter and a calmed inlet at the tank entry to prevent sediment disturbance. Nothing about this is complicated. Every component has a clear purpose. This is where Australian off-grid design separates itself from the rest of the world. A typical European off-grid setup might store 5 to 10,000 litres. Enough for a few weeks of normal use. An Australian off-grid home commonly stores between 30,000 and 100,000 litres. Serious properties in drier regions go higher. 200,000 litres is not unusual. This is not excess. It is arithmetic. If your household uses 500 litres per day and your dry season lasts 90 days, you need 45,000 litres of carry capacity just to survive without a drop of rain. Add a buffer for drought years and tank losses, and the numbers climb quickly. Tanks come in several forms. Polyethylene tanks are the most common, lightweight, relatively affordable, and available in sizes from a few hundred litres up to around 50,000. Corrugated steel tanks with a liner can be built much larger and last longer in harsh UV environments. Underground concrete tanks maintain cooler temperatures, which reduces bacterial growth and evaporation, but they are expensive to install. Most well-designed systems use multiple tanks connected in series. This allows capacity to be added incrementally and means a single tank failure does not collapse the whole supply. From the tank, water moves through a pressure pump, a sediment pre-filter, a UV sterilization unit, and depending on the water quality, a carbon block filter before reaching the home. The filtration chain is non-negotiable. Rainwater collected from a roof is clean but not sterile, and without treatment it is not reliably safe for drinking. Stand in Germany and look at an off-grid water system. It is modest. A small tank, maybe 10,000 liters, a shallow well, a simple pump. That is enough because annual rainfall averages around 700 millimeters and it arrives throughout the year. The ground holds water. Wells are reliable. The risk of running dry is low. In Canada, snowmelt feeds groundwater systems for much of the year. Wells in most regions are deep and consistent. Cold temperatures suppress bacterial growth. The engineering challenge is keeping water from freezing, not storing enough of it. In Scandinavia, fresh water is so abundant and groundwater so accessible that off-grid water systems are almost unremarkable. A basic setup is sufficient because the environment is generous. Australia has none of these advantages. The geology is ancient, flat, and largely impermeable. The climate is hot and evaporative. Groundwater where it exists is often brackish. Rainfall is concentrated, unreliable, and followed by long dry gaps. The large tank is not an Australian obsession with over-engineering. It is the correct response to a specific set of environmental conditions. Change the conditions and the design would change with them. Taken together, a well-designed Australian off-grid water system looks like this. Rain falls on the roof. Gutters collect it and carry it to a downpipe. A first flush diverter removes the initial dirty flow. Clean water enters a primary storage tank. A pressure pump draws water from the tank and moves it through the house line. A sediment filter removes particulates. A UV unit sterilizes the flow. Water arrives at the tap safe and clean. A secondary greywater system captures used water from sinks, showers, and laundry. This water is not suitable for drinking but is perfectly adequate for irrigation. It gets redirected to garden beds or a separate holding tank, reducing the draw on the primary supply significantly. A tank level monitor provides real-time visibility of storage capacity. When levels drop to a predetermined threshold, an alert is triggered. In extreme dry periods, a water delivery truck can top the system up, effectively acting as a backup supply. The truck is the last line of defense, not the primary source. Every component in this chain serves a clear function. Nothing is decorative. The system is designed to be understood, maintained, and if necessary repaired by the people living with it. Most people interact with water without ever thinking about where it comes from. They turn a tap and it flows. The infrastructure behind that tap is invisible and therefore easy to ignore. Off-grid Australians cannot afford that invisibility. They know exactly how many liters are in their tank. They know how many days of supply that represents. They track rainfall, monitor consumption, and adjust their habits accordingly. Water is not a utility. It is a resource they manage actively. The size of the tank is the most visible expression of this mindset. It looks excessive until you understand the climate. Then it looks exactly right. Good off-grid engineering is not about using the most sophisticated technology. It is about understanding your environment honestly and building a system that is calibrated to reality. In Australia, the reality is dry, hot, and unpredictable. The engineering reflects that, and when you see it clearly, it makes complete sense.